Hey everyone, welcome back to another Comic Story and Talks About Some Stuff. That's what I'm doing today. I'm a little late to the party on Spider-Man 2, but we're going to give you my opinions on the overall Spider-Man 2 storyline, what I hated about it, what I enjoyed about it, and what I think they could have done to fix the overall thing. But today's episode is brought to you by the Comic Story and Patreon. Go check out the Comic Story and Patreon if you want to support us, get way early access to a lot of videos, get exclusive chats with me, and if you want to basically just help keep this channel going. All of our Patreons are how we're able to keep going. It's also brought to you today by Bad Idea Comics. They've got a Kickstarter going on over there. They're a couple of friends of mine, so here we go. Here's the ad read they read. The most ambitious comic event of our time just launched exclusive on Kickstarter with Save Now, a new original graphic novel about a man desperate to change the past and save our world from total destruction. Make sure you read this in your own voice, and please do it epically. You probably shouldn't read this ad copy directly. So yeah, go check out the book Save Now by Bad Idea. I think it's a great idea to go get their Kickstarter. You know what I'm saying. Go to the Kickstarter. I highly recommend it. All their books have been incredible, and this one was funded within 2 minutes, which tells you the quality. Link will be down below. So anyway, I was playing Spider-Man 2. Now, I was out of the country when it first came out on my first vacation in 10 years, and then I came back, and we started having a lot of issues, if you're unaware, hence the Patreon plug. But because of that, I was also streaming the game over on twitch.tv/comicstoryangaming. I managed to get 3 plugs in this in the intro. Go me! But it took me a little while to get through Spider-Man 2 because I was doing it as a streamed game. So I was doing about 9 hours every weekend, and I wanted to get through it entirety. So this is going to be full of spoilers. At this point, I'm assuming you beat the game or you're going to get it so far out you don't care about spoilers. So let's talk about the core plot line to begin with. Spider-Man 2 is all about Peter Parker and his buddy Harry coming back. That storyline was implied and hinted at the end of Spider-Man 1 when we discovered that the Venom symbiote was being used to fix up Harry. The story is very much about Spider-Man, Harry, and Oracle, aka Barbara Gordon, aka this game's version of MJ. Let's talk about MJ to begin with first off. This portrayal of MJ is not bad. I don't think it's a terrible portrayal of MJ. Is it the MJ we've come to know and love? Not at all. The MJ in the comic books is far more badass than this one. And I'll go into her mission segments and stuff in a little bit of our discussion here. But overall, they completely changed her character around to basically turn her into Oracle. She's Batgirl. Her and Genki are just the characters that feed missions to you all over. And they're the ones that punch in and they do the computer stuff. And I don't like that portrayal of MJ. I think it works for this universe. And I'll go into the universe in a little bit in our discussion here. But overall, not my favorite portrayal of MJ. The story moves forward. We get to do some pretty cool stuff involving the symbiote with Peter Parker. Harry shows up as Agent Venom. You know me as an Agent Venom fan. I loved that. That was an awesome little scenario. It wasn't the true Agent Venom, but I'll accept it as a fun Easter egg cameo. It then moves over to Peter Parker, where eventually we discover that it's starting to take over Peter Parker. He gets the alien symbiote. We get the classic black-suited Spider-Man, and we discover that it's actually an alien. Loved that. We get to the point where Venom becomes Venom on top of Harry. That's what eventually happens in a big battle between Miles and Peter. The big battle was epic. I loved it. It was incredible. And you get to knock the symbiote off of Peter Parker, and the symbiote eventually goes to Harry, where Harry has a final showdown with Kraven. Let's talk about Kraven. Kraven, I felt, was underutilized and kind of wasted. Kraven was built up to be this big badass like he is in the comic books, where Kraven basically works alone. And I understand the video game concept that Kraven needs a bunch of goons that we can battle against because that's how you make a video game. That's perfectly fine. But what the game boiled it down to was Kraven was always using the goons to weaken everybody so that he could show up for the final fight. That didn't feel like Kraven to me. Kraven would not have done that. Kraven would have just showed up and started fighting from the get-go, not beat you down with the video game mechanics. I get it was a video game thing, so I gave that one a pass, but the death of Kraven at the hands of Venom being instantaneous was cool for shock value, but I really wished there was more to it than that, because we did all this building up for Kraven and just done, over with. To move into the Venom portion. Playing as Venom was awesome, but it only lasted 5 minutes. Everyone's like, it's the best part of the game. And it is, because it's another video game. If you've never heard of Hulk Ultimate Rampage or Unlimited Rampage or Indestructible, there's a Hulk game that came out in 1992, and that's how Venom controls. It's literally just that. Run up the side of buildings, trash and destroy everything. I don't know why they didn't just release a mini game where you can just be Venom running around the city. Maybe that's a DLC coming out. Who knows? We then get to the final showdown, Peter versus Venom. We get to discover that Peter becomes anti-Venom, which was cool, but the suit is very lackluster in comparison to what actual anti-Venom looks like. We didn't even get to see it like roar or like monster out, and I thought that was kind of a missed opportunity to really lean into that. We just get basically a Mr. Negative suit for Spider-Man. And then, of course, we get to the inevitable conclusion where anti-Venom Spider-Man has to battle against Venom. I did it the hard route because I was trying to avoid spoilers. I didn't upgrade the health, so I was getting one-shotted. Made that fight very annoying. Don't recommend doing that. And then we also get to go back and forth between Miles and Peter for the finale. First off, I already told you my opinions on MJ and Kraven. Okay. My other problem is actually Miles. Miles felt weird in this story. Now, I'm a huge fan of the Miles Morales Spider-Man game, and I'm a fan of the Spider-Man game. But Miles in this almost felt like Insomniac was checking a box. We came out with Miles, we got to put Miles in Spider-Man 2, and we got to incorporate him. So the first half of the entire story is how much Miles hates Mr. Negative, Martin Lee, and then that kind of just goes away. And Miles turns into the guy that does all the side quests, like collecting instruments or doing Vision's Brooklyn and stuff like that. And I'm going to talk about those after this. And then Miles doesn't really show back up and be important until like Act 3. And I felt like that was such a wasted opportunity because the entire game for Miles was a lot of him just swinging around, doing side quests, going, "Hey, Peter, what's going on? You want to feel, no, you're busy? Okay, I'll talk to you later." And that was the end of Miles. And I was like, what a waste of having Miles. Why is the main story so focused on Peter, but we put Miles in this video game? More of a nitpick than anything because I loved playing Miles' gameplay mechanics as they unlocked new abilities for him and really tapped into his Venom powers and all of that stuff. It was cool being him, but I just wished he was more incorporated into the actual story. On top of that, Act 3 felt very, very rushed. It felt like they were just trying to get the game out the door at that point, and they were just kind of like condensing it down. We had an entire symbiote invasion, which was basically a null invasion, which was awesome. But it kind of happens, and then like 2 missions later or 3 missions later, it's over. And it's just, okay, I felt kind of wasted. They made an entire new version of New York overrun by symbiote goo, and it was awesome. And it just didn't stay. And I found that to be very weird, very odd. Moving on over to some of the other big moments. Scream. I feel like that was another wasted opportunity. The reveal of Scream being on MJ, thought that was awesome. Great way to put Scream in. But if we're going to use Scream, why are we not using the rest of the Life Foundation symbiotes? Why is there not a side quest to go get Lasher, Riot, go get Toxin, go get all the other ones if we're going to bring in Scream? And if you're not going to do the Life Foundation thing properly, why don't we, make a unique symbiote for her? Why not? Let's do that. Which leads into a lot of my complaints of this game. I feel like a lot of this game is missed opportunities. Like even when you remove Scream, the symbiote goes away and we never hear from Scream again. And sure, that could be a DLC, but there's no side quest to go chase down symbiotes, to go look for Scream. You mean to tell me that MJ is the only one that made a unique symbiote? You could have very easily used every symbiote in existence and popped them in there. Carnage shows up, but only as Cletus Cassidy and has no Carnage ability. DLC, we don't even know yet. On top of all of that, the side quests in general, I just felt were all mostly a waste of opportunity. Sandman was just your standard Sandman storyline. Oh no, Sandman's being taken advantage of again. Go beat up a bunch of goons. That's all that was. Beat up a bunch of goons in a lot of locations. The chameleon reveal at the end of the drone storyline, what a waste. The drones were dumb. I didn't like that minigame. One of my biggest complaint was the minigame / little puzzles they did in the game, because when I was blitzing down the main story, I just kept getting hit by them. Thankfully, I figured out you can just skip puzzles. It's not that they were challenging. It's just that they just kept breaking the flow of the game. And I get it. You're supposed to be doing side quests and doing a bunch of other stuff on the side. But I was blitzing the main story down to avoid spoilers. So by blitzing the main story down, I kept running into all of these mini games and these puzzles and all this stuff that just kind of irritated me. More side quest issues that I had. The Visions Brooklyn one really kind of like just irritated me, because the problem I had with the Visions Brooklyn one is, why is Spider-Man doing that? So it made me think about things. The Brooklyn Visions, or whatever they end up calling it. So basically, Miles' school, you do a sequence in which Miles has to go save the teacher, and it unlocks special quests for the school. That's cool. And this also ties into Miles chasing down the musical instruments. I get the concept. They want to build up more Miles' community and his side cast and things like that. I feel like that should be in a Miles Morales 2 game, But I'll take it because it's very much inherent as to what Miles is. He's all about that community and stuff like that. It's one of the aspects that he has that makes him different from Peter Parker. But I just found it weird that if we're going to go that route, why is he doing it as Spider-Man? And if Spider-Man is involved, why is there not a villain involved? Vision's Brooklyn involves Spider-Man swinging in and then taking marketing material for the school. Oh, let me go get photos and stuff for you. And I'm not a game designer, but I feel like if you wanted to incorporate this as a Spider-Man thing and not a Miles thing, you could have easily added in some kind of B-list tier villain. What if Miles is doing all of the same plot lines? We're doing the two guys trying to go to homecoming, we're doing the photos, but they're doing it around a supposed ghost inside of the school, right? Like incorporate Spider-Man D-level villains. Put Ghost from the Marvel Universe in there. Miles is chasing this ghost around, which is messing with stuff in the school. And what it turns out to be is the villain Ghost from the Marvel Universe, who can go invisible. And the photos allow you to track down where Ghost is. And what Ghost is trying to do is take some super secret students' technology, but what it really boiled down to is they were messing with the students unintentionally. Boom, now we have a Spider-Man story, because I feel like if anybody was going to help out the school, I should have been doing Miles side quests, not Spider-Man stuff. The same thing with like all these bank robberies and stuff are going on, but we don't incorporate minor villains such as like White Rabbit. What if White Rabbit was doing a lot of those things around there? Or instead of chasing the drones around, what if somehow we were chasing Stiltman around in New York? It's New York City. You could easily incorporate tons of baddies that Spider-Man has battled and just put them in there as D-list Easter eggs and fun stuff. To me, a lot of the side quests just felt like a waste because they didn't tackle a lot of that. They really wanted you to feel like friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. But one thing we don't normally have Spider-Man do is go rescue the cat in the tree as a primary plot. That's something that he does in the way to the primary plot. And the primary plot might be something as simple as a scam artist trying to take advantage of the feast, and it turns out this guy is working for Kingpin. But that still incorporates Spider-Man on a ground street level handling these things. And so for me, a lot of the side quests just felt like wasted opportunities and busy work that were just thrown into the game because they didn't flesh them out. You've got me chasing symbiote nests around, but you couldn't bother coming up with all the different symbiotes that could be running the nest. What if Lasher, Riot, and all them were just the bosses of those nests? That's all you would have to do. I'm not talking about adding a lot of stuff into it. I'm just talking about making it feel more expansive as a world. But overall, the main story, I did enjoy. I thought it was a good story. It was a great way to introduce it. One thing that I've been saying about Marvel's Spider-Man universe between Spider-Man, Miles Morales, and then Spider-Man 2 is they do an amazing job of correcting the Spider-Man lore. The biggest problem with the Spider-Man lore is that all of these elements that are in this game have been introduced over the course of like 60 to 80 years, meaning that they're all incorporated weirdly and it tells the story in a weird way. But by taking it all from ground zero and being like, okay, so here's Peter, he's been doing it for this long, and now here's Miles, he's in the story, and you incorporate it all into the story the way they are, it's a great way, and I love this universe. I really do. I just feel like Spider-Man 1 did a better job of kind of expanding Spider-Man's lore and world and showing you all the different stuff, while Spider-Man 2 spent too much time being like, well, look at all these weird mini games and gadgets and stuff we can do. Like the Haley sequence, I would love to know more about Haley, Miles' potential girlfriend. I would love to get information on that. What I don't care about is walking around shaking the controller to do spray paint mini games and learn nothing about Haley other than she wants to help people. A character trait that we have already discovered based on her working with Genki and Miles. So we don't really learn anything new about Haley. Like stuff like that, just kind of like, I was like, why is this here? You have so many opportunities to expand on Miles' school life and like make it about Miles, not about Spider-Man. And if we're going to do Spider-Man, expand on Spider-Man or expand on Miles' characters. And then just Miles just felt shoved into the game in a weird way just so he can kind of be the MacGuffin at the end of the whole story. It worked, it did, but it felt weird. Also, Miles' suit at the ending of the whole story, terrible. I don't know what the hell they were thinking. Apparently it's an Adidas crossover decision. Yeah, it's terrible. It's not a good suit. But yeah, overall I enjoyed the game. I thought it was a blast. I enjoyed the whole way through it. It didn't choke me up like the first game did. The first game really got me choked up with the Aunt May stuff towards the end. But this one didn't really have any of those kinds of moments, but a lot of the big reveals were a lot of fun. I enjoyed a lot of the big Easter eggs that came out of it and stuff like that. I'm excited for what kinds of DLC we're going to get for this. I mean, I'm hoping for a Carnage one. Maybe they're kind of hinting at maybe something involving Daredevil. That would be kind of cool too. I would love to see that stuff pan out and play out. But this definitely remains as one of my favorite PlayStation 5 games. It definitely just felt like a good Spider-Man game overall, even with the nitpicks and the comparisons. I think if this game was the only Spider-Man game, I would have zero nitpicks about it. But I have Miles and I have Spider-Man to compare it to. So I'm just comparing it to its own games. And I just felt like they did a better job with the first two games than this one. But that doesn't make this one a bad game. Now, I also want to talk about the elephant in the room that everyone freaked out about. Insomniac tweeted out that Miles is now going to be their Spider-Man moving forward, not Peter Parker. The story doesn't end on that note. The story ends on Peter Parker basically retiring and Miles taking over. But I still don't like the idea of there only being Miles moving forward. And it's not because I don't like Miles. If you've been following this channel, I cover every Miles comic book that comes out. What it bugs me about is I feel like Insomniac's leaving money on the floor. Why don't we have 3 Miles Morales' games and then we have 3 Spider-Man games? And if you want to rename Spider-Man to Peter Parker Spider-Man, so we have Miles Morales Spider-Man and Peter Parker Spider-Man, go for it. I don't care. But I don't understand why we can't just have 3 games for each of the heroes. And if you really want to expand Miles' cast of characters and his world around him, make that the focus of his games. Don't try to pepper him into Peter Parker's story, because once again, that's how it felt to me. That's what it felt like was going on. But overall, I enjoyed playing Miles the most. Agent Venom was probably my favorite Easter egg. Venom portrayal was great. I loved it in here. I liked that we didn't go the Eddie Brock route, so I didn't expect it all happening. Scream was a cool surprise. Wish they did a lot more with that. Harry Osborn's portrayal, I did enjoy a lot. I thought that was a lot of fun. I did enjoy a lot of what Miles was doing when he was finally doing his proper storyline with Martin Lee and Mr. Negative and all that stuff. That was great. I felt a lot of the side missions were just pointless and wasted opportunities just because they wanted to kind of build out. It became what I like to call PlayStation pretentious. Like that's the issue. It became PlayStation pretentious, which is what I call is when a game on PlayStation Studios does well, the very next game gets insanely padded out with the weirdest stuff. Like, let's have an hour-and-a-half sequence where we ride bikes to the school, and then we don't use spider powers. We sneak around the school instead of just doing a 5-minute cutscene. Or we decide to incorporate Mary Jane in the most boring segments I've ever seen in my life instead of making a 5-minute cutscene. Instead, we're going to give her a stun gun and make her more powerful than Spider-Man, which doesn't make any sense, because why doesn't Spider-Man just take the stun gun and use that? She's one-shotting symbiotes, and he's over here like using 20-hit combos and still not breaking them down. I kind of threw that in at the ending there, my closing statements, because I meant to talk about it earlier, but that's how these rambly videos kind of work. But yeah, that's my only complaint. I got to what I call PlayStation pretentious. Like God of War 1, great game. God of War 2, 2-hour cutscenes. Not 2 hours. I'm being a little goofy with it, but you know what I mean. It doesn't make the games bad. It doesn't make like, oh my God, it's now a terrible game. It doesn't feel the same as the first ones, you know? Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will catch you guys next time right here at Comic Storian. Don't forget to check us out on patreon.com/comicstorian, and check me out over at twitch.tv/comicstorian. And don't forget to check out the greatest comic book ever at Kickstarter. All right.